because you need someone who's gonna understand your needs and keep you in the direction that you wanna go and keep reminding you of those needs and wants. And the realtor will better know the values of a neighborhood than Zillow will. For example, if you go to, what do they call that when Zillow does? Zestimates? If you go to my house and get a Zestimate, it's gonna be so wrong because I live in one of those big Tudor mansions on Michigan Avenue, and it's gonna only take the immediate surrounding area, which is gonna take you behind me. And West Washington's so different than the value of the homes on 7th Street, for example. So the Zestimate is not an accurate way of determining the value of a piece of property.
I think that's one of the hardest things to overcome these days is people thinking they know the value of the homes based on that.
Yeah, based on Zestimate. And no, the realtor is going to know far better the value of the property and maybe what the concerns might be in a neighborhood, you know, whether and advise you what to look for and see if they're concerns for you. Just because they might be a concern for the person next door doesn't mean that they're going to be a concern for the person buying the house.
Like what? Traffic?
Safety is an issue. Safety to me is a different definition for you, right?
Traffic's a good example because
traffic. I live on Michigan Avenue. Traffic doesn't bother me at all.
But it would bother other people.
Right.
So yeah, knowing those things, knowing what's coming up in the area, if there's going to be, you know, this is a great one you have is you know where all the street constructions are going to be and things like that. So that's going to affect properties.
You do?
Well,
She keeps a close eye on
I
it.
keep an eye on it. Maybe not as close as I used to, but I do know what's happening. I do stay on top of what's happening specifically in the city of Jackson, but I do know what's happening in the county too. And you know, there you go. Let's say you're buying a house and there's a sewer assessment that was just put on, or maybe there's an upcoming street assessment, and that's going to affect the desirability of the house that you're purchasing, or maybe it's going to affect the price that you put on a house that's going to be for sale. Or what's the liability a seller has that knows there's an upcoming street assessment coming, even if it's a year out, it's not on the property. Is there a liability for the seller for not disclosing that that's going to be coming? So that's why you need a realtor in your pocket.
What if you have a house that is, I don't know, far and above greater value of the houses around you? Are you
Well, you know,
are you in trouble? If you try
you're
to sell?
challenged.
If you try to sell?
You're challenged.
Say you
know,
put a lot of money into it, yada,
Right.
yada, yada.
Well, I always tell people, well, this is my philosophy, whether it's right or not, but I suggest that you renovate your home to the
Because
standard you're going to live in it.
Yeah, because you want to live there.
Right. Now, if you're flipping, and a lot of people have asked me lately about flipping a home, what you put into that house is going to be totally different. But if you're buying a house and you're going to upgrade it because it's dated, what I find is a lot of people, I'm a perfect example, we bought our house, or we moved into our house on Michigan Avenue in '96, I think, and we updated it at that time. It was structurally a very solid home, but it needed a decor update. So we updated it. We haven't done anything since. I think my house is great, but you might come in and say, wow, this is really dated, right? Because I put wallpaper in back in the late 90s, so
Okay.
is it dated? You know, because it's late 90s wallpaper. And a lot of people look at their own home and say, wow, it looks really good, but in reality, they haven't done any updates to it in 20 years, which is my case. And it's dated, and it needs to be updated to get the highest price. Because a house, when it's dated, is going to affect the value of the property.
Because buyers go in and say, okay, well, here's the price they're asking, but I have to take down all this wallpaper, I have to refinish the floors, I have to update this bathroom, so they're subtracting from the sales price right there.
Like our house had red shag carpet in it. One side, it used to be Dr. Taylor's home and office, and so the one side, what I call the west wing, which is 2 rooms, 2 large rooms, they were divided into 5 rooms. In fact, there's a fireplace on that side of the house that we didn't even know existed until after we bought it and started renovating the house. And we restored it as close back to the original that we could figure out. So, but it needed, once we tore up the floor in the west wing, we had to install new hardwood floor. And then that new hardwood floor didn't match the existing hardwood floor, so you have to be creative, so it looks like it was done purposely. I think it turned out great.
Yeah.
And of course, guess what color I painted my walls?
Purple.
Oh, well,
no,
there is purple in there, yes.
No, well, no, it's
Yeah.
brown, it's burgundy.
Well, whatever.
It's orange
Orange.
with
and
burgundy
purple.
ceilings.
What?
Yeah, orange walls.
Orange.
Yeah, it's a pumpkin orange maybe.
It's awesome.
That's a like bright orange. I can't believe you didn't guess orange. That's my color.
You're not a flower child, are you? That sounds
And
like,
I haven't, those
that sounds a
walls.
little psychedelic to me.
I think it's pretty rich looking, actually.
Okay. Well, I'm sure it is.
So I've repainted the walls the same color. That I like it so much. Now, if I were to put it on the market, though, I probably would have to neutralize it because I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know about. I'd be like.
So you're so used to it. Again,
Well,
Wouldn't you just let somebody else do that?
well, I see. My opinion on that is that it's such a unique home anyway that I don't know that the uniqueness of the interior takes away from the house.
Right.
But if it was a standard home, then maybe.
Yeah. we had a leak in our bathroom ceiling, and that's kind of torn apart, and I haven't fixed it yet. So I'd have to fix that because that would be a problem.
Yeah.
Which means I'd have to tear the wallpaper down in the bathroom, which creates a whole nother set of projects. But
So are people flipping?
there are people out there flipping. I am not. That isn't my favorite thing to do in the business, and I mean, I would much.
How does that wouldn't affect you, would it?
Well, I think right now the market, the values are there. They're increasing.
Yeah.
And I think there's some price points out there where you can buy them and improve the properties and turn around and sell them. But you just have to be careful. You really, flipping was really easy when the market was down, but the problem with a down market is you never know when the bottom hits until after it's gone. And 2009 was the bottom, and now we're on the up and have been on the up since. So you don't know when the top's going to be. Top could be this year, who knows? So if you buy a house and want to flip it and you're in the top of the market, you just have to be willing to take the risk, I guess.
Well, that's always going to be a risk, right?
Yes,
I mean,
sometimes
there's
less than others.
No
though.
guarantees.
Depends on the house, depends on the location, depends
Location
on
is
how much
prob-
you're willing to put into the property.
Location would be the biggest issue, wouldn't it?
Location. It's
Yeah.
always the biggest issue. And the price everything stems from location. Now, I am a big believer I'm not afraid to go into a neighborhood and go into an area and say, I think that this is the next growth area and be the first one in there. That doesn't bother me at all. Because I think you can improve areas pretty easily. I shouldn't say that. That's easy. It's just, you can create momentum. Someone can create momentum.
Yeah,
Positive momentum.
that doesn't sound like it'd be easy.
Well, I drove down a street the other day that used to be, you could clearly tell by driving down it that it was mostly renters, and just because of the upkeep of the neighborhood and things. And I just drove down it again a couple of weeks ago, and it had probably been about a year since I'd driven down this road. And you can clearly see now that most of it is more than likely owner occupied because the houses are much better well kept, and it was an area that was very hard hit by the foreclosure. So I think that particular area is one that people went in, saw that they could get a very inexpensive house, bought it, and have now, as a neighborhood, have cleaned up the area, and it's much, much better now.
And I think your young professionals are going to be looking at those neighborhoods that are surrounding the downtown area and how they can purchase in there and upgrade the house that they buy. And then their friends buy the next one and the momentum starts.
So are you still big on the city's demolition program?
I think it's slowed down somewhat. But yeah, I mean, Jackie just ran some statistics and I didn't see them. Did you look at them?
No. I just
You
sent
just
the
ran
data.
them? I always look at them once I'm running
I
them, but
know.
whatever.
Actually, the ones I was most recently working on were like 2006 to 2011, so it wasn't.
But clearly it helps the neighborhood. I mean, sometimes, like I drove down Jackson Street the other day, and there were several demos on that street, and I think we have to step back and say, how are these vacant lots going to be handled with the current housing stock that's still there? Because sometimes it looks like a lot of land versus houses, and you are in an urban area. But that's the next challenge, right? And then some of the lots were not maintained, so the city has to figure out that
Houses weren't habitable, right?
houses were not habitable.
Okay.
99% of them were not habitable. Maybe there might be one or two that somebody could have done with, but you know what I find happens, and I've seen that this is happening to a house on West Washington, just west of West Avenue, and it's frustrating, just west of, more specifically, Grinnell. A developer bought 3 homes at tax sale and then signed a development agreement with the city, and that house sits there empty, and it's been a couple years, and it is deteriorating the value of the surrounding homes. And there's a house for sale right next door to it. And there was one across the street. And those houses, now it's not the worst house on the block, at least from the outside. The inside, it's a mess. But I think that those people like that need to be held accountable. They need to be, we get held as landlords, we get held accountable. And I'm sure that the development agreement has information in there or remedies for making that person accountable, but it needs to be enforced. And the problem with enforcing is that I think the city's trying to do that, but it takes so long. Because is that a problem? I guess it's a problem, but it's also, the fair thing to do, justice, right, for the property owner. But you just want to make sure that the properties in our neighborhoods, it's hard to keep them maintained. I clearly think that the enforcement on the landlords and being a landlord, I think that's helped our community and helped our neighborhoods a lot. And now what we're seeing, us landlords are seeing, is that the property homeowners, your primary resident owners, need to step it up a little bit in some areas, not in all areas, but so you'll see the city starting to enforce on that level.
Codes?
Yeah, roofs in particular. I mean, it's frustrating there is a house right in the middle of the properties that I own that has a huge, huge hole in the roof. And it was owner occupied. Claimed to be owner occupied. There's another property in the middle of a commercial property. No, but the city has gotten on them for that. And then there's another property in the middle of properties that I own that's a commercial property that property owner, has roofing shingles on their roof, and it deteriorates the value of my properties. And I've upgraded my properties. My properties look good. They're not perfect. But we are constantly working on them, and I get so frustrated every time I have to look at that building, and it's just deteriorating day after day. There's a hole in the roof, there's the siding that's got cedar siding, it's peeling, things are falling off of it, the backyard's overgrown. I mean, who wants to live next to that? and it's a monster of a building. So, you know,
It's a business,
uh-huh,
running, operating
Uh-huh.
business.
yep. So they can't, apparently I'm told that, I don't know what's in place to take care of those problems, but it's our responsibility. If I list a house and there is a property that is got,
Suspect,
yeah, that's just, there's violations, clear violations visible, that's gonna affect the value of the property that I'm selling, and I will not hesitate to call the municipality. I've done it in Summit Township, I've done it in Norville, I've done it in
mm-hmm.
City of Jackson several times, so, that's what our government's there to help us maintain our properties, right, or enforce those codes. So,
You have any houses you're
I
selling?
do. I've got a nice one in Western School District. It's a tri-level, ready to move into. Beautiful house, 169.9, 4 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, just under 2,200 square feet. Nice fenced-in backyard. The address is 6581 Laurie Drive, which is a nice neighborhood off of King Road. And then 387 South Mill Street is a really cool ranch with a full walkout basement, very tall ceilings in the basement on the Raisin River. And that's almost 3,000 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 3 full baths, and that's under $250,000. So call me at 780-3800 if you want to buy or sell real estate.